guys, it's very stimulating your boy again, and this is Open Archives of Heaven. And yes, first of all, sorry, it's been ages since we did anything on this channel, but it's a long story, it has a long story, and it has children, long stories. But for real now, we're back this time, and we have a lot of things to discuss. But first of all, let's look back at what we've done. So this channel is a channel that helps us to reason out our faith. Faith is a reasonable thing. Philemon 1:6, Paul admonishing Philemon tells him that you have to be able to communicate your faith reasonably. And in different other parts of the Bible, we see whereby it's important that we know what we believe in. And what we believe in is not a fantasy, it's not an imagination, but it's something very real that can change the life of every and everyone. So today we will be discussing a topic that, like I said, but first we have to review what we've talked about before. Like, who created God on the channel? Why am I a Christian? How our faith is reasonable? What the problem of sin really is, and how Christianity tackles that problem. And today, we'll be talking about evidences that you didn't know that back up and support the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And also, that will be showing a bit about why the Bible is credible. I always get that in my head, sorry. So like I said, today we'll be discussing the evidences about the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ and why the Bible is a credible account of that. So again, I am your voice in here, and this is Open Archives of Heaven. Now, number one thing that we need to know is that the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, as real as it may be in the spiritual sense and emotional, is also an historical account. It is historical. It's not something that in those days they had video camera, or they had WhatsApp, or they had Instagram, or they had Snapchat to record it. There was nothing they had in those days that was technology enough to record. So anything we know of those ages back then, just decades ago or centuries ago, come from written accounts, things that people wrote in calligraphy. That's how they pronounce it. Yes, calligraphy, I guess. And they wrote in different scrolls. And that's what was passed on from generation to generation. So if we're going to have any accounts, we're going to have an account from engraving stones, artifacts, different locations, different writings. There's no video to show you how Jesus really died. So basically, all we have are accounts. Yes, number one evidence is the date. Like seriously, today's date. So the dating of different historical other books or other historical books. This is the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ as reference. As we know, before Christ, BC. After the death of Christ, AD. And this is the reference that most people use to date back things, even down centuries and centuries, and even before Christ, because Christ was a very historical event, very major one that most historians agree is one of the most valid historical events to ever happen. Now, number two evidence are the sources. And yes, number one source we have of the life, death, resurrection, birth, and everything about Jesus that we do know today is the Bible. The Bible. Yes, I don't need it, I didn't done it, I don't need it. Yes, the Bible. And I'm sure you may not believe that the Bible, come on, the Bible is something that Christians wrote by themselves. Is it? You're like, is it? No, first thing we have to understand is that the Bible was compiled 200 years after the death of Christ. So it was a very close period. Unlike other accounts of people like Alexander the Great, who the nearest account we have is 400 years after his death. So the 200 years is not just that the letters were written then, but the compilation of those letters, that is when the letters were found, was 200 years after the death of Christ. So we have letters like Paul's letters, like Mark's letters, that date close enough to like 5 years after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Basically, one thing we have to understand about the Bible is that one reason why it is credible is it's not that people sat down and disciples like Peter, Mark, Luke, or Paul, when he was writing the Bible, sat down to write and thinking, okay, this will become the Bible. They didn't just sit down and make a book. No, these were letters, accounts that were supposed to be passed to different churches to be able to spread the gospel, that people will know how Jesus lived his life and what that means for them. So these were different accounts that were later now found, and the early church compiled it into the Bible, because this is what connects us. This is our closest connection to the life of Jesus Christ. So we can see that it's not just something that someone just sat down and wrote a book. No, of course, the Bible was written by humans, people that were inspired by God, not just inspired by imagination, but from experiences, real life experiences in which they faced, in which they encountered Jesus, in which they lived with him, and of the experiences they had through him, and even after his death and resurrection. Now, another thing that is so credible about the Bible is that the Bible was not just written by followers of Jesus. First, it was also written by people like Paul. Paul, who was a very strong persecutor of the gospel of Christ. And we see that in the sense that if you're having a case, and you have a case whereby you have someone who is, you have a case in a court rather, and you have someone who is your star witness in a kind of sense, and is opposing the other party, let's say black versus yellow or black versus white. And so you have someone from the black side going to the white side and saying, this is real, like your case is already made. What am I saying? You have someone like Paul, who was constantly against the gospel, persecuting people like Stephen and other disciples and other apostles rather of Jesus Christ. And you have him going to the other side and now writing, and not just writing about it, but giving his life, risking his life for it. Now, another thing is sources outside the Bible. I mean, there are different sources. There are people that hated Christians, as we know from the Bible, people that persecuted the Christians, who wrote letters to each other, different Roman emperors. We have people like Flavius Josephus. We have different other Jewish rabbis who wrote different articles, different letters to each other back in those days. We have Phlegon, we have Marasarapion. I don't really know how to pronounce these names, but I'm trying to give him credit. We have Colinius Tacitus. And these are different people who were writing to each other, and at some point mentioned Christians, at some point mentioned Jesus. Someone like Flavius Josephus, who wrote about Jesus and mentioned the Messiah. In his writings mentioned the strange things that he did. And we also have different people who wrote about Jesus, writing letters, different Roman emperors writing letters to each other, who wrote about Christians that were worshipping Jesus in those days, and of how they planned to actually kill them, which was the sad part. But yes, they wrote about Jesus. So they have evidences, even another evidence, different books like the Quran, who mentions Jesus time and time without number, and his existence even as a significant part of history. Although we do not really relate to the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, but we'll still deal with that. So, like I said, there are different sources within the Bible, outside the Bible, that testify of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Another thing, like I said, that we need to know is the theories. I said that the Quran does not really, or Muslims do not really agree with the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. They seem like another prophet that came like the Prophet Muhammad. But for real, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is proved in history. Two different things. The tomb in which he died is there, and the different accounts like the Bible and outside the Bible. But basically, let's look at the theories that are against death and resurrection of Christ. Now, there are many theories. There's the stolen body theory, there's the hallucination, and there's the string theory, and so many other theories here and there of what really happened, in those 2 years of death and resurrection of Christ. But the main thing is that I'm going to take and address only two of those theories, which are the stone theory and the hallucination theory. Now, what does the stone theory really say? The stone theory says that Jesus did not die, that he didn't really die, but maybe he just fainted and then he was awake, and that's what other people, like 500 people, said he saw him when after his death, so maybe he escaped. Now, the truth about that is, I'm a medical student, so I'm going to take this from a medical perspective. Yeah, I feel like doing that again. So, the thing about that is this. You see, the problem with the string theory is you guys are underestimating the Romans. Now, the whip that was used to beat Jesus was not just any kind of whip. It wasn't koboko. No, this kind of whips had thorns on them at the edges. So that means that each time they struck Jesus with the whip, and the time they were pulling it out, they were pulling flesh with it. And the distance he traveled and continuously being whipped, energy he must have expended, the sheer blood loss would have killed him. And he was still losing blood when he was put on the cross. Let's note that. Now, when he was put on the cross, another important fact is this, is that he was hung like this with his, because the different images we have from that, he was hung like this, with his arms out wide and then his leg in. So his chest was not aligned with his arms. And the problem with that is this. Each time he had to breathe in, you had to drag himself up and constantly the nails, constantly go against those nails and open up the holes more. And the energy needed for that kind of action, considering his blood loss, the fatigue he must have been going through. I mean, Jesus was also a man as much as he was God. And so, all that pain and all that would have already killed him. Even in fact, another thing was that there is a very clear picture which I'll show you in the video of how when Jesus was hung, the Roman soldier came in and put a spear through his ribs and into his chest, into his thorax. Now what came out was water and blood. And what that shows is that Jesus must have undergone what we call pericardial effusion. What does that mean? That is, fluid must have leaked into a cavity surrounding his heart, and that would have only led to what we call a cardiac tamponade, in which that fluid will be putting so much pressure on his heart that he will not be able to pump blood out again, and he would have died of pure heart failure. And so the blood loss, the heart failure, the shock he would have gone through from the blood loss, the mere fatigue, all these factors ensured clearly prove that there is no way on earth that Jesus survived. And an article was released a few years ago by the American Medical Association, which states that the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is the most valid medical historical event to ever happen. This is valid as this. So, next is the hallucination theory. So there's the theory that, and the 500 people that saw him were hallucinating, like they were really so really they didn't know what was going on. So, and the problem with that theory is this: 500 people saw Jesus at the same time after his death. 500 people. How, kind of magic trick, even Didi could not do that one. Make 500 people hallucinate at once. As psychologists, I agree that it would have been impossible for Jesus to make 500 people hallucinate at the same time. As another effect you can look at, if you think, okay, maybe it's God now, it's God, it's Jesus, so he had magical power, so he could make 500 people hallucinate and okay, maybe he could. But then you have to think about it. You have to think about the effect it had at all. And this is the go-to point in this video. This is why I'm doing this video. Chain reaction that occurred after those 500 people saw Jesus. How the gospel spread. How it transformed lives of people like Paul and all the apostles and even different people down to the ages today. And you have to look at one very, very, very important fact, which is the fact that the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, seen by these 500 people, was carried so much in their hearts. And I'm not talking about something that, they saw and these people did not just die for it. They risked everything, they lost everything just to ensure that this gospel was spread. Now, people were hallucinating, if for some reason Jesus didn't die or nearly fainted, I don't think these people would have died the way they did. You have people who, like John, who was beheaded. You have people who were fried in hot oil. You have people who were hung upside down to die. Different gruesome kind of deaths that these people went through, all because they believed in this gospel. You look at the gospel and you look at how structured it is logically, in the sense that the death and resurrection of Christ is a much needed input in the world today. In that sacrifice and the meaning it has, the message it requires, the message it tries to pass, the message of love, this is what will solve all of the world's problems today. Is so impactful. You look at the historical evidences, how solid the Bible is, how different things were found that reference to the Bible. I mean, in 1960, an Italian found a stone, a tablet that says Pontius Pilate, which is referenced in the Bible too. So it wasn't a shock that we saw that. In 2004, the pool of Siloam, there were stairs that were found leading to the pool of Siloam, which was mentioned, of which Jesus healed a man, in which he said he should go and wash his eyes at that pool, and it was different things like the end times, things that were said in the Bible, of which we do now see. The Bible is an accurate account of what has happened before, of what will happen in the future, of what is happening now. It's just purely mind-blowing to have one book with such level of accuracy. But next time I'm going to discuss on how we make use of that significance, how we make use of that death and resurrection. How do we find God? How do we find life in that? What's the meaning of that? So that's what we're going to discuss next time out. So again, for the last time, I'm going to review what we discussed today. Today we talked about, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the evidences you didn't know about the Bible, how credible the Bible really is, talking about it logically, sources outside the Bible, Jew rabbis, Roman emperors writing letters to each other. We talked about how it's the most credible thing in history. We debunked some theories like the hallucination theory, like the swoon theory, and we basically, as much as possible, covered most parts of what we believe to be evidences of death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. There are other sources which we will see in the link in the description for a more extensive research on this. We have books, we have videos, we have different links and articles. We discuss more on this topic. Thank you for staying tuned, because remember, the impact of this video, it's not just a documentary video or whatever, it's not just me just talking, but it's so that you will be able to hold on to this faith more strongly, understanding that the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is an event that actually happened. And the next video will be discussing the meaning of that event. Thank you. I remain your boy, and this remains open at night of heaven. And also watch out, we'll be releasing our hoodies, our sweatshirts, something like this, but open archives, customized very soon. So watch out for that. Stay tuned. Thank you.